And welcome to the Lifeburst podcast reviewing Vertex Diva. We're on the blue cards now, and we gotta get this done before my Uber Eats order shows up. So we're gonna try to do this fast. We got Columbus, Azure General Queen. It's a level 3, 12,000 power Harmony. Harmony cost is 2 Elrigs. Its constant ability is as long as you have 1 or less cards in your Elrig deck, this gets plus 3,000 power, so we go up to 15! 15 on its own, as long as you have 1 or less cards in your Elric deck. How realistic that is? Meh, it's not super realistic. I like that she has a what is it called? A little compass as her belt. That's cool. The auto ability is at the beginning of your attack phase. If this Signy is upped, you may discard 3 cards. If you do, vanish target Signy in your opponent's field. Okay, so I think this card is probably viable, which is sad, because normally Harmony Signies, with the exception of like 2 or 3 so far, have all been like really good. This does a job that I think Blue needs, which is being able to vanish, and it struggles with straight up vanish. But discarding 3 cards is quite a bit of tax to make it happen. However, if you are in one of these dirtle blue decks where you're like, I'm drawing a million cards, and then at the end of the turn you're going to have to discard those cards anyways, yeah, Columbus can turn that into value for you, I suppose. The 15k is not something that I think you're going to plan on at any point in time, so, you know, just let it be what it's going to be. I think if you're going to be playing a mono blue deck, you should maybe consider running this, which is why I'm saying it's viable. But outside of that niche, probably not really super worth it. Orion Natural Planet Queen. Level 3, 12,000, secret rare. It's a Cosmos Signy. It has a Lifeburst. Its Lifeburst is down target Signy on your opponent's field and freeze it, draw a card, which is good because it interacts well with frozen stuff, as we're about to find out. Constant ability during your opponent's turn. If a Signy would leave your opponent's field, instead, you put it into its owner's trash. Its auto ability is at the end of your opponent's turn, draw a card. And the action ability is discard a level 1 Signy, freeze all of your opponent's Signy on the field. Okay, so this does the mythical thing called freezing 3 things for the price of 1, which is good, as we've learned before with freeze. Freezing 1 is bad, freezing 2 is good, freezing 3 is awesome. It has an auto ability that says at the end of your opponent's turn, draw a card. Never gonna happen, right? You're never gonna keep anything on the battlefield ever. That's just never gonna happen in Wixoss. Like, it's super rare that happens, so let's just discount that ahead of time. This thing freezes, which means that a freeze deck would potentially want this. A freeze deck would also potentially want this because of its constant ability, which is if a Signy would leave your opponent's field, and it's instead put into the trash instead of wherever it would go. This is specifically saying that you're punishing the opponent for being able to enter charge, or during the enter phase, entering their frozen Signies. That's good because freeze goes hand in hand with enter starving, right? That's kind of what you want to be doing with this. But it's only during your opponent's turn, right? If it was like during your turn, that would be nutty. Then I'd be like, yeah, this is one of the greatest freeze cards ever. It's only during the opponent's turn, so it really only means that if they go and they decide to enter with this. And then being able to discard something to freeze 3 at once is pretty good. I think there's enough things like Waffle Ice that freeze on entering and freeze more than 1 that this is a little redundant, especially on the level 3 slot. But it's fine, I guess. My concern is that it is a little all over the place. It wants to be a enter starving Signy, while simultaneously also giving you the ability to enter. I guess that's not all over the place, but it's just not narrowed in exactly to what I want to be doing with freeze. The more we go forward with freeze, the more I'm actively wanting to enter starve the opponent and also get rid of their stuff. So really, it's that constant during your opponent's turn if a Signy would leave the opponent's field instead going to the trash. I guess it's good. I guess it's good in a freeze thing. I'm trying to talk to myself into it, really, is what it is. I just noticed there's a crab there, and I love it. It's okay. It's okay. I think you should use this in a freeze build. Not as, like, a 4-of, by any means. But it competes with a bunch of other things. Like, it competes with the Royal Blue, which we really like. And also competes with Waffle Ice, which I marginally like. So I don't know where exactly you want this to fit in. But it's good in a freeze thing. We'll call it viable. We'll just move on. Well, let's talk about Notre Dame. It's a way better Signy. Notre Dame Labyrinth. When I first was looking at the set and testing things, I didn't test this a ton, and then it started being useful, and I started playing it more, and then it started being even more useful, and I started playing it even more and more and more. This card is really good. It is, as the art suggests, a literal wall. And if you have extra cards, right, instead of maybe putting it into Columbus, it might be good to hold on to them on the off chance that you want to use Notre Dame instead. I guess I should talk about what this does. Level 3 Signy with 10,000 power, which isn't a lot, but that's okay because it can come back from death. Auto, during the main phase and the attack phase, when your opponent draws a card, they discard a card. So it randomly dunks on Lifebursts that draw cards, or Signys that draw cards when they enter, or like Goggiels like during attack phases stuff. Which is good, but its primary use is when you control the opponent drawing an extra card, like you're doing something that's like, hey, we both draw a card, yay! With Notre Dame, it's like, no, kind of only I'm drawing a card, you're discarding a card. It's especially good in Madoka's ability, because it's like, hey, Madoka says, we both draw cards and both discard cards, that's fine, right? And then it really turns into, hey, actually, I draw a card and then you discard 3. Which is great if you get 2 Notre Dames out. It also has the ability to, when it's vanished, you may discard 2 cards. If you do, you can put the Signy from the enter zone into your field downed. This, along with Exia, can really shore up your defensive game. If you're playing Exia and this together, it's really 8 cards of I'm not really getting vanished. I'm gonna clog this lane. I'm really gonna control this lane. And you probably win those late games if you have those together. Its Lifeburst is actually surprisingly really good too, which is you may discard 2 cards if you do vanish, target Signy on your opponent's field. In a deck that wants to play both kind of offensive and defensive, like it's playing a tempo game, this Lifeburst is actually quite good because you have some extra cards to fling around a little bit. It's also really nice if you pair it with things like Summer Lives Blues. Basically, what I've been trying to say this whole time is I've been playing it in Madoka 2.0, and it's an all-star there. Like, I'm actively using this over Firefly Squid, which is surprising even to me, because Firefly Squid is very good on its own, too. Going into our commons, we've got Norma Natural Planet to level 1, 3,000. Whenever the opponent discards a card by your effect, you get to freeze target Signy on your opponent's field. It's not good. Don't use this. It's unplayable. If you are making the opponent discard, you are likely attacking their Signys to try to keep their hand low. Otherwise, you're doing it in order to try to make resources worse for your opponent. Like enter starving and stuff, which is fine case there, but you have more better dedicated level 1s if you are doing sort of those shenanigans. There's better things that discard at level 1, and there's better things that take advantage of discarding at level 1 and take advantage of freezing at level 1 that you are not hard-pressed to play this. So no. GA Natural Planet. Georgia, baby! We've got Georgia Natural Planet, and its ability is it's 5,000 vanilla, so it's got the requisite number of stats needed for a vanilla that has a very good Lifeburst. Let's find out if this is a good Lifeburst. Draw 2 cards, your opponent discards a card. That's a good Lifeburst. I actually like that Lifeburst quite a bit. You need to be in the right deck that takes advantage of just basically running the opponent out of resources immediately. There are some blue and white L-rigs that like those types of effects, even though this doesn't affect the board. But it allows you to do things like, not right now, mind you, but but it allows you to do things like draw extra cards for Notre Dame, or Garden of Singularity, which will be coming up in a later set, where you can turn those extra cards resources you have into guards or vanishes or like I said, defensive stuff. So this Lifeburst actually is very, very good. It's just not quite amazing right now, but it will be good in a few sets. So I'd keep your eye on this. I'd probably, like me personally, I'm going to collect about 8 copies of these, just so that way I can have them kicking for my blue decks later down the line. So this is a staple, but right now it's just viable, maybe optimal. It depends on how much you like Madoka Break, I guess. We got Plaque Plankton Natural Bacteria. It's a level 1, 1000. It is a Nature Tone bacteria, which is not often in blue, but cool, it's there. It's got a turn 1, once a turn. Whenever a Signy on your opponent's field becomes frozen, it gets negative 1000 power till end of turn. No, super unplayable. Pass. There's no real reason that you want to be like, yeah, I'm devoting my level 1 slot, which, by the way, this thing has just as much power as a guard and dies to literally everything. Let's go ahead and do a negative 1000 effect for Frozen specifically. Yeah, it's so niche, it's very unplayable. Do not play this card. But Bruno over here, I'm going to talk about this Bruno. Haha, we haven't heard that joke to death. It's a level 2005, level 2, 5000 power. Its constant ability, as long as it's in their center Signy zone, it'll gain, whenever the Signy attacks, you can draw or make your opponent discard a card. Not at random, but it's good. This card is awesome. Staple. Right now I'd use it as a 3 of, but probably in future sets I'll probably cut that down to a 2 of effect that I want to see in my deck. I can't think of any blue deck that probably doesn't want this. It's free discard or free draw if you need it, and specifically no ifs, ands, or buts. Sometimes it tacks under, which is actually kind of nice, because you might not want to vanish the Signy that the opponent has got. You're just trying to force them to enter from field. Maybe you're pairing this with freeze, for example. Again, you don't always need to have something to say freeze in it for you to be like, yeah, this actually works very well with freeze. So this might be a card to consider there. It unlike Hijikata, which is theoretically a better card, being that it can get a power boost and it can vanish most things. This just has a lot less, a much higher floor, which means that it's just a better card in general. So you'll be seeing this for a long time. Team Palette, however, is a crossover of something that I don't actually know what it's a crossover with. I don't remember. Let me know in the comments below what it is. But it's not a good crossover. Sorry for whatever company or person this is crossed over with. This is not good. Is a level 2, 8000 Signy. At the beginning of your attack phase, each player draws a card. No, super pass. There's cards that let you just, look, this lets you draw a card and does not reward your opponent. Yes, this has 8000 power, but 8000 power on a level 2 is not that great. So it comes with a lot of different art variations, and they're quite cool, but no, unplayable. Glacia Azure Evil to level 3, 12,000 power, which you can take this and put it into the trash, and you can freeze up to 2 Signys on the opponent's field. You can also pay blue and colorless, put the Signy from the field into the owner's trash. If the opponent has no cards in their hand, you can vanish target Signy on the opponent's field. Okay, so I've been liking this a lot more than at the top here, Columbus. It basically functions the same. If you have a ton of extra cards, and you are probably also making your opponent have no cards, this becomes just a 2 of in the deck. That is a spell in blue that basically says blue colorless vanish target Signy. However, it has the upside of being able to be at least at 12,000 if you need it to, or at least it can freeze things on your opponent's field. It does not necessarily need to be in a freeze deck. In fact, I don't think it's great in a freeze deck, but it has these 3 upsides, right? Where at worst, the floor, 12,000 level 3. That's fine. Slightly higher floor, you can freeze your opponent's stuff if you have extra cards in hand. Much higher, you can vanish something out if they have no cards in hand. It's flexible, and all of the floor it presents is good. and the ceiling that it presents, specifically in blue, is actually quite strong. It's also a demon. It's worth mentioning that it self-sacrifices, and demons, so you can run this in the demon deck and run Devil's Carnival and be able to pull this back in. So if you are vanishing the opponent's hand, or discarding the opponent's hand turn after turn, hint, just play it in as a tech 2 of in Nova, so that way you can, or Tamago, and you can use, oh god, why am I brain farting on the name? Fenrir, to constantly make sure the opponent has no hand, and then once they have no hand, this is a way to every turn open up one lane. It has uses, and it still gets seen play even today in Japan. But you should know that it has needs to be met before it becomes a good card, but then it becomes a pretty average card, so it's viable. Exchange, we have again, multicolored spell that is, it's a blue spell that has a multicolored cost, so it's blue, but it allows blue to gain access to some black effects that it would not normally be able to get. So let's read what it does. Your opponent discards a card at random, then add target signy with the opponent that the opponent discarded this way, same level, to your hand. So it lets you get something from your trash, put it to your hand, while also making the opponent discard a card at random. And I love discarding cards at random. Its Lifeburst is choose one, draw 2 cards, or add target signy without a guard from your trash to your hand or put it onto the field. And I like that Lifeburst too. The draw 2 cards is okay. The add a signy without a guard from your trash to your field is very good. But it's like flip end. If that misses, you can just draw 2 cards in the blind, is a nice add-on to that specific Lifeburst. 2 enter is about the price that I'm looking for in order to make the opponent discard a card at random, and then make me draw 1 from my trash. However, it's at random, which means that you might snag something great, you might snag a spell, and you might not draw a card. That part is kind of iffy. I'd say it is playable. Playable is somewhere between viable and optimal. So it's playable. I think if you wanted more discard effects and you were also playing black, right, I wouldn't necessarily splash this into a blue deck to gain access to this effect. I think it's okay. I think it's if you were like, man, I really could just use 2 more random drain effects, then exchange could be what you're looking for. But outside of that, you have a bevy of other options that you can use, namely Bruno. So I don't know if it's super worth it. And that's all of our blue cards from Vertex Diva. And just in time, because now I have ramen to eat. Goodbye, everybody.